Hi, everyone. One of the challenges of being old or getting older is that you can't see with your glasses and you can't see without them. I'll start with my glasses on, okay? I love beavers. The small animals, you know, that kind of beavers. A beaver hungry for housing, for space, light, food and shelter, goes for the biggest tree in the forest. It can cut down a whole forest with its bare front teeth, without any hesitation or fear, and in the firm belief that of course it's possible. The trees can easily be 100 times bigger than the beaver itself. It's no problem. But I'm not here to talk about beavers. I'm here to present my crystal ball vision for a feminist future. Beware of feminism. Because if you first get it started, it's unstoppable. Feminism is a state of mind that embraces you for life, like a cloak made of strong and tightly woven hopes and political demands for a future led by solidarity, freedom, and justice for all human beings. Feminism is actions, necessary, rebellious, radical, and controversial actions to eradicate the injustice and suppression all women are met with in our patriarchal world. Rebellion is the core of feminism, anger the fuel, and not gender equality, but full liberation for all women the goal. And it's a bloody duty for feminists to be rebellious, not only on behalf of oneself, but on behalf of all women. And women all over the world, they do rebellious actions in their homes, at work, in rooms of power, and in the rice fields every single day to survive the harms from the invisible chains of a patriarchal, misogynist, and violent global culture. Feminism was the most transformational social movement in the 19th century. And feminist ideas created enormous social changes and wealth here in the Nordic countries by pushing for women's rights. The right to vote, to free abortion, to equal pay, higher education, to divorce useless men, and to access to the labor market on the same conditions as men. These rights are still not fully unfolded, and some at risk of being taken from us again. And that's why this forum is so important. These changes they were done with peaceful and creative methods, and they inspired women all over the world. Without the feminist movement fighting hard for women's rights and inclusion into society, we would not be living in the most socially stable and prosperous part of the world today. In the hardship we feel when confronting day-to-day misogyny, we tend to forget these great victories. Victories won by quite a small number of determined women and with very small finances. A handful of women can achieve an awful lot if they decide to. When Josephine Butler formed her movement to abolish prostitution in the middle of the 18th century, she started out with only one, and I say one, other woman in her living room at the coffee table. A coffee table and a friend, and off you go to change the world. A stick, a pink sari, and a legitimate portion of anger can also do it. The Nordic feminist movement still plays a very important role in the fight for women's rights in the globalized world. The Nordic countries are to feminism what the Statue of Liberty is to New York. And that's why we cannot allow ourselves to rest in smugness. We both have to defend our hard-earned rights and invent new paths for women all over the world to follow. We are pushing the limits for what's possible. Sweden's criminalization of punters is one of those groundbreaking inventions, and it was born in the brain of feminists. And the Feminist Party now holding a seat in the European Parliament, and soon in the Swedish Parliament too, I'm sure, is another. You are damned important to the women of the world, dear Nordic ladies. Feminists have changed the world. Feminists can change the world. And feminists will change the world, despite the threats we're submitted to. The 20th century belongs to feminism. It belongs to women at a time where capitalism is breaking down and the globe is collapsing from overpopulation, poverty, and the consequences of greed and growth ideologies. Because feminism has the right answers. Inclusion of all women on all levels of society, access to healthcare, contraception, abortion, education, jobs, and land for all women of the world. Peaceful solutions instead of war. Sustainable food production and sustainable handling of our resources on our planet are just some of our answers. And this can only be achieved if we succeed in disarming patriarchy through fighting sexism, racism, porn culture, prostitution, among others. All these phenomena are consequences of a violent patriarchal system. Fighting men's violence against women in all its forms must never be taken off the feminist agenda. Promise me that. Feminism scares patriarchy, and I don't mind. Anti-feminists attack women brutally these years, and also the Nordic feminist movement is hit by advanced attacks. Neoliberals frame the welfare state as feminized and therefore something we should get rid of. And they dismantle the Nordic welfare models and replace them with a global patriarchal corporate regime nourished by an undercurrent of support from anti-feminists, neo-Nazis, racists, and other misogynist right-wing fundamentalists. So beware of the right. Examples. Denmark holds the record in the EU in violence against women. Yes, that's true. And Norway's right-wing government is pushing to restrict the right to free abortion and to remove the law penalizing men buying sex. The Breivik killings were a cruel product of misogyny, racism, and not to forget, Breivik was driven by anti-feminism. In Sweden, the public school system has been hit by privatization. Anti-feminists attacked a March 8 group in Malmö this spring, and the network I'm involved with, the March 8 initiative, was attacked by anti-feminists a couple of years ago. I will spare you for more examples, but they are there. Selling women and girls in the global sex and porn industry has become one of the most profitable businesses of our time. Taking control over women's bodies through sexual slavery represents the most condensed form of oppression of women. Prostitution and porn culture anesthetize girls and women to be occupied with their looks and bodies. It inflicts girls with self-hate and trains them in self-repression, teaches them to tolerate a violent, male-dominated culture, and to be accessible and fuckable at all times instead of spending time changing the world. We must take back our bodies by eradicating, not just fighting, but eradicating porn culture and the sex industry from this planet. We must not accept being silenced by sexual violence. A few years back, abolishing prostitution seemed almost impossible. And while organizations such as UNAIDS, ILO, and Amnesty International support sex workers' rights, which are nothing but better business opportunities for pimps and a disaster to women, today more and more states, such as Canada and France, and international structures such as the European Parliament and the European Council supporting a criminalization of the purchasing of sex. And this is a legislative punch right in the core of the sex industry. This is not a coincidence. This is a direct result of many years of hard work by feminist movements in many parts of the world. We demand an end to male sexual supremacy and female sexual slavery. Political support to abolish prostitution opens a window of opportunity. The feminist movement can put an end to very huge and profitable exploitative multinational industries if we strive hard enough, collaborate, and are patient, brave, and determined. Combating the sex industry will become a real game changer for what will be possible to achieve for us in the future. We can learn a lot from this battlefield. In this very moment, we're standing on the doorstep to a new wave of feminism. A wave of young women and men longing for global solidarity, sustainable development, peace and justice for women. The young generations, they act with great responsibility. Young Arab women fighting for democratic rights, young Indian women fighting for a life without rape and killings, young Afghan women fighting for the right to education, and young Nordic women fighting patriarchal structures, infecting women's lives with sexism, prostitution, porn culture, and violence. You are our beavers of freedom. And do not stop until the whole forest of patriarchal supremacy is torn down. Let's think bigger, aim higher, go further, set ambitious feminist agendas for the next century. Intensify our anger, and let's build strong global feminist grassroots alliances. Let's take back our bodies and our dignity. And let's fight everyday sexism, porn culture, and men's privilege to buy women. Let's fight global corporate patriarchy and demand from our governments to be protected from male violence. Go into the streets, go into cyberspace, go into political parties, grassroots organizations, and make your voices heard. Beware of the beavers. Demand from men that they disarm their silent agreement to suppress women. Demand new forms of masculinity. Demand from men that they shall be strong instead of powerful. They shall be sexy instead of sexists. And they shall be caring instead of violent. Thank you.